And in a legend car, I got in an accident where there was a bunch of cars kind of piling up right in front of me, and I like went low to try to avoid them, and then they just kind of came low, and so they forced me into the way. And stupidly, I didn't take my hands off the wheel or my thumb out of the steering wheel, and that's like very common knowledge for race car drivers, where you don't put your thumb inside of the steering wheel, because when you hit the wall, the steering wheel will snap and it'll break your thumb. And that's exactly what happened to me.
4. They come by this time and they'll take the white flag. Heather Hadley closing in on Danny Chisholm at the white flag. Final lap of the 54 to the inside. To drivers left of Danny Chisholm. Wheel to turn number 1.
Excited to be here today, Amy Emmy, with another episode of the On Target for Success podcast. And believe me, my team, we could not wait to get this next guest here. Today, ladies and gentlemen, get ready and be prepared to be blown away. I have been just waiting for this young lady to come on here, and it wasn't fast enough like her. Today, we'd like to bring Heather Hadley. Heather is a professional race car driver, a record-holding race car driver, and right now she's currently driving in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series after winning the Mazda Women's Initiative Scholarship at the 2022 Mazda MX-5 Cup Shootout. And I had to read that just because that was a tongue twister for me, amongst other things that she's done. And I am so pumped. I've heard of like Formula One. I watched that like documentary on Netflix, and in Germany, it was a big thing, like Formula 1. And then I've seen like NASCAR, because I was living in Charlotte for a while and my friend treated some of the drivers. And to get to know like a female race car driver, I'm excited to learn what the difference is here in the MX-5 series, like to learn about your cars. And of course, we'll put some pictures up and things. But I think it's so cool because as women, we don't get to meet many women race car drivers. That's like a male-dominated field, and it's so inspiring to have you on here. So welcome, my dear.
Hi, thank you so much. I am truly honored to be here. So thank you. And that was beautiful. I know it's a mouthful, but you did so well.
Yeah, thank you. And you're so young to be doing all this. And that's what's even more inspiring, because as you're juggling all this with going to school and life and work, and after, I've coached a lot of athletes to the Olympics, and it's a lot. Like, you must have a pretty amazing family to have that support to just be able to get to different things. But backing up a little bit, like, how do you even get started into race car driving?
Yeah, I mean, the typical way to get started is you have a parent that raced, and then they have a parent that raced. So, I mean, that's, 90% of the race car drivers I've met it was in their blood before, they even could recognize a car. It was just, it was what the family did. For me, that was definitely not the case. My entire family pretty much knows nothing about racing. We come from Marin County, and in Marin, there's no racing around at all. Very, very little talk about motorsports in general. And one day I was 9 years old, and we just decided, my dad and I, to go to a local indoor go-karting track. And the first time I went, I didn't love it so much, but the second time I won the race, and that was it for me. Once I got the win under my belt, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And I went for 6 months after that to this local indoor go-karting track, and I had won 104 races out of 107 of the races I had entered. So we were just like, all right, we should take this seriously. But yeah, that's how it started for me.
So you were 9 years old when you started. I mean, that's just a baby. So I'm just thinking about putting my daughter in a race car, in a go-kart, and those things go so fast. You like bounce off each other. Was it a circular track for those races, or was
it went left and right?
Wow, 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 wow. So I think I'm thinking of being the mom, like in the stands, I'd be like watching like this and praying and hoping. And so how did your mom deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, the indoor go-karting track was definitely, I think, of all the things I've raced, the least dangerous. So,
Oh,
I think it was probably a good way to get started because there's very little risk to it. Um, and my dad was loving it the entire time, just always jumping up and down and yelling and my dad's my biggest supporter. So yeah, he was just absolutely pumped. And then my mom would, come occasionally to the indoor go-karting races, but once we actually bought a go-kart and started racing on a weekend, then the whole family would come out, and it changed a little a little bit there because um that's when becomes a little bit more dangerous, but
yeah.
yeah,
So
so
and
it was
I was
hard.
just thinking about that. Then I have a question around that. Like, do you have to get a coach, or like how do they teach people to do this? Because it sounds instinctual, like you had it instinctual because you had that need for speed. And are you competitive across all other things as well? Like, or was it just that one thing that puts you in the competition?
Oh, yeah, I am super competitive.
Okay.
Um,
Like if you're in school, are you competitive? If you're, anything you pick up and play, you have that desire to win.
yeah, I mean, I think school I am competitive, but I think just across all sports, like, my dad put me in a ton of sports growing up. I think he just, like, took it upon himself. He's like, "This is what, a father should do." And he just, like, threw me in all these sports, and we went, like, bike riding, and I was a part of, T-ball and then eventually softball, and,
Wow.
um, for a little bit, I was, like, in on a swimming team. For a little bit, I was on the tennis team. So, like, I just tried all of these things, and I honestly, I loved all of them. Like, I just love sports and, being active and also just that competitive, drive to wanna win. But yeah, and then back to your your first question about the coach. um I think the way most people like me do it is you start out for a few years just trying to do it on your own, and that's what we did. Like,
Mhm.
it would just, for most races, be either my dad and I, or my dad, my mom, and my stepdad and I going to races and just trying to figure it out. And we were very clueless. I mean, just all of us having no idea about racing, and then showing up to the track and trying to make a competitive go-kart against all these people that are way more knowledgeable on this stuff than we were. So that's what we did for the first few years until we eventually did invest in a coach, and uh,
Mhm.
having, like, renting a car and having it with him, so that he could work on the car instead of us trying to work on the car. So I think it's definitely, at some point once you're moving up, a good investment, is a strong coach or a mentor. But yeah,
I saw that one picture that you sent us with I said who was your mentor or your coach, because I wouldn't even know like how much
that's
does
my
it
mom.
cost? Oh, that's so sweet. How much does a go-kart cost like nowadays? Like just because I know racing's kind of an expensive sport to get into, right?
Yeah, I mean, so go-karting, it is a wide range. Like, if you want to just do it locally, it's
Yeah.
not going to break the bank per se. But if you want to do it like professionally and race in Europe or something, it can get absolutely crazy. I mean, what people pay for go-kart racing is the same as what people pay for sports car racing. And
Okay.
it gets extremely competitive and costly. But for us, just doing it locally, I think you can buy a go-kart for, I want to say 5 to 7 grand is a good, like, range. And that's used probably. Like, if you wanted to buy a new one, it would probably be 10 to 14 if I had to guess. But Honestly, it's been so long now that I've raced go-karts, I might be off there.
That's
Um, 'Cause, yeah,
yes.
that's that's not, like, too different from the legend car once we started racing legends, so, yeah, but I'm sure that there's good, you know, competitive go-karts that you can get for, like, 2, 3 grand, honestly.
And how fast do they go? So you're putting this little 9-year-old girl. So I can't imagine like the discipline and focus that you needed to have. Like, how did you like use that? And then I bet that helped you a lot in all other areas of your life. Like, what are some of the disciplines that you developed going that fast? First, tell me how fast they go.
So starting out, I was doing about 40, 50 miles an hour, in those go-karts that were outdoor. Eventually in go-karts, there was one go-kart that went 60 miles an hour, and that was like a little bit fast for like myself as an 11-year-old or something. But yeah,
As compared to the car that you're driving now.
it's about 140,
And
130 to 140.
wow, I can't even. I saw the video with you inside, like the
Yeah.
one. I was like, no, this is just freaking me out being in here. I mean, go, 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 Heather. And I was just, I can't, the focus, like, what do you when you're in there, right? And this track, the track that you're on now, and the type, what's the type of car again that you're more focused on now?
The Mazda MX-5 Cup car.
Okay, that's the only one that you're doing because you did do the Legends before.
I
And,
still do some legend car races,
okay.
but it's mostly, like, at the very beginning of the year and the very end of the year.
Okay, it's different seasons for the different. And then are you guys on a point system? I'm not really sure. Like, we're training for things. There's certain tournaments that we would go to and we'd accumulate points to help you with your rankings. Is it that similar thing in race car driving?
Yes, absolutely. There's points in Mazda MX-5 Cup, and there was points in the legend car racing, and there was points in the go-kart racing, so we would you could win races, and then you could also win championships always.
All right. So when you are in this, so okay, so let's just have some fun. When you moved from like, I'm just picturing you as this cute little girl, this tough, really tough little girl, still cute because I saw the picture with you in your little car and a big smile, and then like, you move from 60, right? And then did your coach suggest that you move up, or how do you know when you're ready to go to the next level?
So there was always people trying to move me up at certain points, but I always just went with my gut and whenever I felt ready. So,
Okay.
um, if someone was trying to move me up, but I didn't quite feel ready for it, I would wait a year. Or if I felt ready and other people were telling me to maybe hold back a little bit, I would just I would do it. And yeah, so I always went with my gut. I think, just the fact that we started kind of all on our own, and trying to figure it out kind of gave me that level of confidence to just trust
Mhm.
myself, and not completely rely on someone else, to just listen, to them and follow them blindly.
Yeah.
So I think that helped me a lot over the years, was not just taking the all of the advice from the coaches and mentors I've had over the years, picking and choosing what I think applies for me, and the rest kind of following my gut and my intuition.
That is huge, Heather. I can't even tell you like how many women have told me, I wish I would have followed my gut. I knew better, but I didn't listen. How did you like, do you have a strategy for tuning into that you could like share or recommend? Because that is such an amazing gift and skill. It is a skill, I would say.
um a strategy, I'm not entirely sure I've ever thought about it that way. I think I just know when I know, and if there's even a question, you probably aren't ready. If if you're feeling a little bit unsure, if you're feeling, it's like something is wrong, like, you're feeling this uneasiness or question in the back of your mind, that's secretly your gut, trying to tell you, that you're not ready or something is off about the situation. And it's always important to listen to that voice in the back of the head, and follow that, because it really it's right almost every single time, I have to say. So yeah, I mean, that's just, that's what I do. If there's even a little bit of a question, it's probably not the right time or place or person.
That is so, so wise. And I can't even tell you, so many athletes that I've worked with, that emotional prompting, when something's off. But then there's sometimes like you get the excitement and your head plays games with you. So how do you know the difference? And you just said, if you have the question, right? If you even question it, then it's like a no-go. It's real stuff. Is it subtle or is it obvious for you?
It's been both, for sure. It's been both. I've had situations with people where I've immediately, my red flags have gone off, or, I've had people try to persuade me to move up into a certain series at a certain age. And I immediately was like, I either don't have the funds for that, or I'm just not ready. I don't have the level of experience in this series yet. And sometimes it's been more so the opposite, where I'm like really struggling and having that mental debate where I'm like, I can't tell if I'm just super excited about this idea that I've made in my head about this series, or if it's if there's something wrong, or sometimes that that debate, it it definitely can get really, really hard. And I think at that point, that's when you just need to strip away all of the emotion and just sit down with the facts, and be brutally honest with yourself, because you don't want to be a year or 2 years away and be regretful about making a decision off of impulse or emotion and excitement. You just want to have made the correct decisions off of the facts that you have, and just do the best with all the information that you have. Right.
Wow, good. You're so wise and so young, and it's so amazing. It's fantastic. So, what do you have something like, you're so grounded? I like the way you said that. Just step back and analyze. You're going to be great at accounting. Talking about that, you're just finishing up. You have like one class left, right? And then you'll have your degree in accounting and finance, right?
Yeah, 2 majors.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, because I'm always dealing with business, and I remember when I was learning international business, and the guy that I was working for said, he was German, so he said, if you don't know the numbers, you don't know the business. And it was like, oh, if I was 1 penny off, I was like, oh, no one's find it. And he was like, no, not even a penny, right? And so I think that you've picked an amazing major, considering you're like, it is like kind of a contradiction, like, but I don't know, accounting is like solving a puzzle too. So you have to keep cool under pressure when you're handling millions of dollars in people's books. And there's a lot of emotion that goes around money. So it seems like I was going to ask you like how the challenges you faced on the racetrack, come over into everyday life. And it seems like you're handling things pretty cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in a bit of a transition period right now, where school is kind of ending and I'm entering into that like corporate life. But I'll probably have a better answer for you once I've actually had work experience in accounting. As of now, I have had no bad experiences with accounting, and I enjoyed studying for all of my accounting classes and finance, but particularly accounting. So yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with the fact that in stressful situations, you always need to maintain a level of calm and focus, and I think that applies to both racing and accounting for sure.
That is such a skill and such a discipline. And for you, like in archery, it's not a life or death situation, right? But if on the racetrack, I mean, and you're going so fast in these cars, that high speed, high stakes world of racing. And I can imagine the emotion. Like when you're actually in the car, I remember, what was that movie where it was a baseball player and I think it was not Field of Dreams. I don't remember, it was a baseball, and he said, and we always do a lot of visualization. I have so many questions for you, but anyway, he goes, he was getting ready to pitch, and he said, the fans were all screaming at him, and then he said, clear the mechanism, and then he just got in that zone and he was ready to throw, right? When you're going in that fast, do you like hear the fans screaming? Do you hear all the engines, or are you on lockdown? Like, what does it feel like when you're in that place? What do you go through?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely have struggled with this over the years. Like I'm not going to say that I am perfect with getting into the zone and completely alleviating all of the anxieties and all of the pressure, because I still to this day get very nervous still. But I will say that for me, my personal experience, the most stressful part about racing is sitting in the car, like waiting and just kind of like, because they'll make us go out onto pit lane and just sit there for like 10-15 minutes before the race starts. And so that part is difficult, to just kind of sit with all of your nerves. But it seems that the experience for me every single time, whether it's in the MX-5 Cup car or the Legend car or Go-Karts, is that as soon as the engine starts and we get going, it just disappears. And I mean, it's helpful that we have earbuds in and a headstock and a helmet, because I absolutely can't hear anything
Oh,
other than whoever is talking to me over the radio and, my engine. And so, that helps with not being able to hear any outside noise. Because I do remember when I played softball and t-ball and all the little league baseball, that was something that was hard for me to deal with, was all these different people yelling at me, from whether it's the coach or the people in the stands or my dad or whoever is like trying to say, run to first or run back to, wherever it was. I was always just like, whoa, what do I do? And one of my favorite parts about racing is that there's none of that. You just sit with, your own thoughts and you rely on your gut, and that's it, right? Like you don't have these people yelling at you, telling you what to do. You just have a spotter over the radio who is letting you know, at these like, consecutively over the race, kind of what's happening, what lap times you're running. He's not, giving you advice, telling you where to pass or anything like that. So you just get
okay.
to rely on your gut, and yeah.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, what is the day in a life of a race car driver? Like, how do you keep yourself mentally, physically fit? Like, are there specific workouts that you have to do for physical training and, our mental training? Like, what group of coaches do you have around you? Because like, when people are preparing for the Olympics, like you have your dietitians, you have a whole supportive team around you. So when they win the gold medal, I always think the team won the gold medal, kind of like when you win the race, right?
Absolutely.
Who's all encompassed in your team?
So I did invest this year in a nutritionist, because I do think that is extremely important. And then this year, which has been unique, because I haven't really had this in previous years, but our team does have a coach who is hired just for that sole purpose. And he's not like a therapist, or he's not there to coach you on anything other than what you're doing on track and why you're doing it, and also what the car is doing, and if there's anything that needs to be changed with the car. He does both. So
Wow.
that's been super, super helpful this year, is to have that asset on the team, because, lots of other teams like just don't have that valuable asset. And so that's been really, really nice. And yeah, I mean, in terms of training, in North Carolina, when I lived there the last 4 years, it was a bit easier to find race car driving specific training. Here it's difficult because there's absolutely really nothing to do with just, specifically race car driving in terms of like training in a gym. So I go weekly. I'll go like I try to do 4 to 5 days a week, in the gym, and then, I've been slacking recently, but something that I did a lot last year was hot Pilates, which I think is amazing for the heat training and just keeping up that level of endurance. I absolutely loved hot Pilates, but since this move has really, it's just been very time consuming, but I'll definitely get back into it here pretty soon.
How hot is it in your car?
Um, it'll get to it's hard to exactly say, but I wanna say, like, it's been a range for an average race, probably 100 degrees, but it can get to 105. Thing that's that's tough about what we do in sports cars, we have to in the Mazdas have to blast the heater um, when the engine is overheating, and so that doesn't help with the internal temperature of the car. And most of the days that we're racing, it's uh, you know like 85, 95 degrees, somewhere in there, especially in the summer, obviously. And then at the beginning of the year, we race in Daytona, which doesn't get much cooler. So
Yeah.
uh, it's pretty much just hot at all of the races. So
So
yeah,
how much weight do you lose at the end of the like how long is a typical race? How long is the course? Like
45 minutes.
so you're racing for 45 minutes in heat, in speed, in do you guys drink anything while you're racing at all? Do you have any
I do have a water bottle, and it has like a long hose that it's a magnet, and it'll clip to um, what would you call it? I don't know exactly what it's called, but kind of like the center console area. Um, it clips to that, and then for like cautions or red flags, I can sip on that.
Wow, I cannot even imagine. So you're soaking in sweat, driving, the heat pouring, and you have to focus. I understand probably why hot Pilates feels good to you. It feels like being in an open race car, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's so similar. When I first started, I was like, wow, this is actually crazy. There's no other workout I've found that is like hot Pilates, when it compares to racing. It's crazy.
So cool. Well, and then you're okay, so you're in a predominantly male sport. So what unique perspectives or strength do you think you bring to the racing community being a female?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't want to say that, we don't all bring unique experiences, but I definitely have a different perspective. I think all women have interesting perspectives in that way when they're competing in a male dominated sport because we get treated very differently. There's a lot of times where we're underestimated a lot. We're constantly feeling like we have to prove ourselves. I've found that is just common in every form of racing I've ever competed in. Is that no matter what I've accomplished previously,
Yeah.
to people, it doesn't matter. You're here now in this car, and you have to prove your worth as a race car driver today. Like that's all that matters. You're only as good as your last race is a lot of people's mentality, and um, so there's that constant feeling of having to prove myself, at least just speaking from personal experience. Um, and then something common that I get a lot is that I hear a lot of people say that it's easier to be a woman in racing, or it's easier to find sponsorship and marketing and all of those things. And while I think that that is a little true in terms of like our marketing abilities, just because we're different, I definitely wouldn't say that it's easier to be a woman competing in a male dominated sport. I think it has the same amount of difficulties as a man competing in a male dominated sport because we're treated so differently on track. We really are. Like I have been driven off track at points for absolutely no reason, just because someone didn't want to let me pass them. I've been intentionally driven into and like on just going on a straightaway where there's absolutely no reason that you need to be swerving around, like someone just slammed into me. And for absolutely no reason. So, things like that where it just makes me question a little bit, like, would you do that if this was a boy or a man?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, because that's what my next question was like, what was a memorable moment or achievement, right? During your racing career, like as we're going through this with a girl that you had that had a significant impact on you. And this could be like maybe does that make you more hungry or does it does it because if you got that competitive spirit you're like okay I belong here, right? Does it make you just want to rise and say I'm gonna outdrive you, or what goes through your head when it's so ridiculous but it happens and there's truth in it? So how do you handle it and channel it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in racing a long time, and I've experienced that treatment for a long time, like the entire time that I've been racing, right? And I know that at the beginning, when I would get that discrimination, for lack of a better word, right, or treatment, different kind of treatment for
Mm,
being a girl, I know that it would do nothing to me other than make me hungry for more.
yeah.
Um, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna beat you in the next race, and then that's gonna be that. And then what can you say, right? After I just like to shut people up, like
Like I said from Missouri, I said, show me, right?
yeah,
Show
like
'em, girl, just show them.
lots of people can talk, but
Yeah. Oh, I
we get
love
on the track.
so, but that's why I was so excited on so many levels to interview you. Just like how you get fortified, when those things happen, where that test becomes your testimony, right? And
Yeah.
you do it with grace and grit, and just you're paving the way for other women. That do they have like a women's series? I was just curious, or do they just do all women now at that certain level compete with men?
So in F1, I think F1 is the only series currently that has a women's only series, which is called F1 Academy.
Oh
Um,
wow.
in all other series, women can compete at the top level, and women can compete at the top level of F1. It's just so demanding in every way that there hasn't been one to compete in F1. Um, but women have competed in IndyCar and NASCAR and sports car racing at the very top levels. So, yeah, F1 is the only series where that's a little bit different.
As we're talking about this, and what advice would you give other women that are wanting to like break into the race car driving in this field?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you're wanting to compete as a race car driver in racing right now and the state of racing where it is today, I would say that you have to absolutely love it more than anything,
Mm,
and you have to have grit and tenacity and a level of drive that is nearly impossible to break, right? Um, and I have faith that you will make it to the top if you have those qualities.
love that. I love it. So along that drive, what routines or rituals do you do? Like, do you have this set, like, are you that disciplined person that stays with your rituals and routines? Are you superstitious at all?
Not really, honestly. I carry a a lucky die, like a dice, with
Okay.
me all my races because my dad and I we used to play liar's dice a lot, and there was just this one die that, always won me the most amount of games, so I have it I have it
Oh,
with me when I bring it to my races for luck.
oh, so it's really interesting. A lot of athletes do that. They have this one where they're like only wear a certain shirt or certain
Yeah,
socks. It's fun, right? How that one little thing like anchors us into possibility. So
yeah.
this is such good stuff. I'm just thinking about like, so are you like how often do you have to train then? How many like hours of are you actually driving during the week, or what's a
Yeah.
schedule like to be a top performer in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It definitely varies a lot with the athlete and the level of funding, whether that's coming from sponsors or a manufacturer. Um, I try to do what I can, but racing is obviously extremely expensive. And practicing for us is very expensive. It's pretty much the same amount as racing, because you have to get the team out at the track and you have to rent the track and you have to pay for tires and fuel. And all these things are very costly, obviously. So,
What is the tire for like one tire? I have no idea. Like, just, I don't know if our listeners if they 'cause it's such a new world to me. So, like, what are race car for your type of car, right?
mhm.
What do you have an idea? Like, what are the tires costs?
Yeah, one set of tires is about $1,500.
Wow. Okay. And how long does one set of tires last?
We'll go through two to three per weekend. If we want, we can choose to uh, run an additional, but yeah, so we kind of are the way that our series does it is we put on new tires for the second race and then we put on new tires for qualifying. And qualifying is a very short session before the racing where we all go out for 10 minutes and it's you know, like 4 laps or 4 or 5 laps or something like that. And everyone's trying to just get as fast of a lap as possible. Um, and it's just green flag the entire time unless something bad happens, obviously. Um, so we get new tires for that, and then we put those same tires on for the first race. And then the second race, we put on new tires. So and drivers can choose whether they want to put new tires on for practicing or whether they want to run on old tires. A lot of drivers will choose to run on new tires, so that's 3 sets for a weekend. So it gets very expensive very fast.
Yeah, and then just fuel. Like, is it a special kind of fuel that you use in your car?
No, no, it's yeah, just regular.
And I'm just trying to think, but when you're going, and what's your average speed while you're running out there the whole time? Like, what do you mean, like, stick around as you're racing?
It depends on the track. I know that a lot of our minimum speeds in corners is around like 80 to 90 miles an hour. So average is probably about like 110, I want to say. Um, but it definitely depends on the track. Like Daytona, we have like a 5 minute long straightaway where we're running at 140 basically the entire time. And then we have like a very short little infield where it's like, I believe 7 corners. So a track like that, obviously our top speed's going to be, or our average speed is going to be a lot higher than,
So,
a track like Ohio where it's just all these twists and turns and very little straightaways. So
wow. And so, like, how, and it's so, is it the same amount of laps on every track, or is it different because the tracks are different shapes?
yeah, it doesn't go by laps. It just goes by time.
Oh,
So
once.
it's
Okay. I thought
right.
maybe they, like, you went a couple times around that one. Okay. So, and
Right.
when you're out there, how big is the group? that you start out with?
So it's on average about 30 MX-5 Cup cars. For our bigger races like Daytona, it's a little bit more, like 35. Um, but yeah, it's on average about 30 cars for all of the practicing, qualifying, and races. Obviously, they're going to drop off a little bit as the weekend goes because people get in accidents and stuff. But yeah.
Wow. So what's the scariest one that you've ever been through?
Just accident in general.
Like, you're like, you have angels, right?
I mean, luckily, I really haven't been involved in anything too crazy. I have broken 2 bones.
Keep it down. We're gonna
Yeah.
keep it down.
I know, knock on wood, right?
So you broke a couple bones?
Yeah, so I flipped a go-kart when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old at the go-kart track at Sonoma Raceway, actually. And I broke my wrist when I flipped over and landed. And then in a legend car, I got in an accident where there was a bunch of cars kind of piling up right in front of me, and I like went low to try to avoid them, and then they just kind of came low, and so they forced me into the wall. And stupidly, I didn't take my hands off the wheel or my thumb out of the steering wheel, and that's like very common knowledge for race car drivers, where you don't put your thumb inside of the steering wheel because when you hit the wall, the steering wheel will snap and it'll break your thumb. And that's exactly what happened to me. I broke just like this little piece of my bone, and I had to get surgery on it. There's a little scar there from that.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky, I have to say. I've never flipped anything, and I want to keep it that
way. And keep you. We're cheering for you. We're just gonna send like all this protection around you. You're like, that's our girl. Come on, that's our girl. Because it's still like, I just can't even imagine the mental intensity going that fast. Because I mean, I live in Florida, and the mental intensity just getting on the regular road here. I'm like, I'm ready to be home already. It's so crazy with all the tourists and all the different ages and stuff like that, right? And so I can't imagine what. So as you're looking ahead now, so because you had mentioned that it would be great if we got like, are you sponsored by Mazda right now for this entire season? Like, since you're on a team, or then because this is like a business, right? You're not only racing as an athlete, you have to raise funds, right, for different expenses. So you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete, entrepreneur, race car driver. You're going to be good with your money. And now, like, what else, if you look ahead and you're able to grow in this, like, what are your goals and aspirations within the racing world? And, how can people support you to get there?
So my current sponsor is Shift Up Now.
Oh, yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they are an organization which is founded by women and run by women, and it's for women. So they're these amazing female race car drivers that run it, Pippa Mann and Erin Vogel, and they support women race car drivers. So yeah, they are truly amazing. I do events with them and giveaways and whatever we can throughout the year. And yeah, they're just an amazing group of women to work with, and they support me over the course of the year in MX-5 Cup, which is amazing. And for people that want to support me, there's a few ways that you can just checking out my website. There's different ways to follow me. I have Instagram and Facebook is where I stay the most updated with all my racing journey. And there's emails and contact ways on my website, as well as if you would like a signed hero card, I have that on my website as well. So fill out the fan form and I can send you a signed hero card.
Very cool. Because I think it's so important. The knowledge that you're bringing, like I said, you're the first race car driver, female race car driver that we've had on here. So this is so inspirational. How has racing then shaped your approach to challenges as you're coming, like, because one of the challenges, right, I find this with all my athletes, like, it's getting them the resources that they need so they can stay in the game. That takes a lot of pressure off of you. When you're financially supported to just train and all of that survival is taken off of you, you can perform a lot better. But just going out there, these challenging times also make you tougher. So it's kind of this neat balance. But what has your approach to challenges been because of the opportunities that you've experienced through racing?
Yeah, I mean, I know that nothing in my life that I've ever experienced has been as challenging as racing. So, everything that I kind of experience after racing, or while I'm racing, but kind of separately,
Yeah,
is is nothing compared to racing. So,
I love
um,
that.
it gives me, a little bit of a unique perspective in that way,
Mhm.
where I am just I'm happy to do anything, like, and it's not I know that it's not going to be nearly as challenging as racing. And yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to racing for that.
I have a question just coming back to that because the challenge, like, because when you're going that fast, do you develop like this secondhand split decision making mind that like you like do you see things in slow motion, quick motion? Have you become like one with your car now because you've done it so much? Or like how does it feel when you're in your body and all this is happening? Try to explain it to a layperson.
um yeah, so for me, when I'm in the car, I am definitely in this zone the entire time, where I'm kind of experiencing everything that happens, from this state of mind, where I'm kind of just operating off of instinct. And I can't exactly explain why I'm doing it while I'm doing it. I'm just having to do it and think about it later, kind of thing. um
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't exactly know like
It's
what happens to my brain when I'm in the car. I know that, that's why I love racing so much, is because it focuses me in one point, and there's no distractions.
Mhm.
Um it's one thing that I can focus on. And what's great about racing is it's just one thing following another. So it's like one corner, and then you focus on the next corner, and then you focus on the next corner. And you just do that lap after lap, is, how do I set up for the next corner? And so, yeah, that's what I love about racing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like that zone feeling, but it's so fast. Like even I used to ride horses and do barrel racing and stuff like that, and I only can relate a little bit where you're like one with your animal. You get like synced, and I'm just trying to put myself in that place where you like synced in your car, and like maybe a tree's coming, or so you kind of know your horse is going to go this way, or little things to the next barrel, or and so I'm just trying to put myself in that feeling. I think it would be so cool to like come to go around the track once with you to just experience that trust and just wow, like you've done a great job explaining and really helping me get into the feeling of the challenge. You're very good with your words. So this is
Thank
really,
you.
really nice. Okay, so we know that we can support you from your website now, but we know that we can get a hero card. And like, where can we come see you race? Like, where are you going to be next? I can check it out on your website, but like, what track? When will you be back in Daytona, for example? That's my state.
Daytona is next year.
Okay.
Um, all Florida racing is next year. Yeah, Florida, we get out of the way as early as possible because it's so hot.
It's Daytona.
Yeah, we do all the Florida racing in like January and February.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
my next race is in Canada in about a little over a week. Um,
Do they
so we're
stream
racing.
live? Like, can we watch you? Do they stream live?
Yeah, they stream live on imza.tv and racer.com.
Okay,
Um,
so we'll put it in the links of the podcast so people can find you
awesome.
and watch you.
And then for people that can't make the races live, they're all posted on YouTube afterwards. So all of the races from this year and last year are all on YouTube. If you just look up MX-5 Cup and then type in the track, it'll show up.
Very cool. All right, my dear. So we could go on for hours here, and I'm trying to be respectful of all the things you got going on. But with this, what legacy do you hope to leave for the racing world? Like when people say your name, what do you want them to know or remember or feel?
I want to make a positive impact in a few different ways. Like I hope to one day have the ability to give back to all of the people and communities that have given to me and supported me. So I definitely I come from uh, a city in California. My parents are divorced, so I kind of identify with two cities, but one of them is Vallejo, California, and my hope one day is to be able to give back to Vallejo because they are underfunded and they need that help.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that's very, very important to me and close to my heart is being able to give back to Vallejo and help support the community whenever I can. And then the other thing that's important to me is just supporting and uplifting women and inspiring young girls to be able, to follow their dreams and pursue their passions and not listen to, anyone when they try to uh, stop them from going after what they
Right?
want to
Amen.
do.
Amen. And you say young girls, but I'm inspired and I'm 51. So is that young? Yeah.
No.
Because I'm always like, hey, I know I'm going to be climbing mountains when I'm 70. The rest of my life is going to be the best of my life, right? So
Absolutely.
I would say you're inspiring all ages, just to let you know that. So one more question for you. And if there's anything else you'd like to add right now before I ask this final question, go ahead.
um I think you're good to go. I'm sure I'll think of something later, but
Yeah, good. And your mentor I saw you had in there is your mother. And did you have any other female mentors that really uplifted you and made a huge impact in your life?
yeah, absolutely. I've had several female mentors over the years. I think my mom has just been the most impactful and the biggest mentor of my life. But um,
Yeah, there's
Catherine Legg,
yeah, bring them all. Give them now's the
yeah,
time to love on them and shout out. Catherine
yeah,
Lake.
absolutely. I mean, they all deserve it. Catherine Legg is a sports car racer that I've looked up to for years, and I've had the privilege to be able to speak with her personally. And she helps me and gives me advice whenever she can. She is truly such an amazing person, like just one of the kindest and smartest people I've ever met. And she is just so amazing and someone that I've always looked up to. And then Pippa Mann, of course, she working with Shift Up Now, but also just on her own journey has been amazing and incredible to watch and truly an inspiration for me. But yeah, I mean, I look up to all female athletes and female race car drivers because they're doing what a lot of people don't dare to do, and I just all power to them because we need more women in motorsports, and all these women are inspiring more and more girls to get into racing every year, and I see it, at all the tracks and everything. Just more and more girls coming into the sport, and it makes me so excited.
It's exciting. It's totally exciting. Well, Hank, I always believe that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. And where that focus goes, energy flows, results show. So, what is a question that someone in the past asked you that changed your life?
Interesting. I have to think on that one for a second.
That's okay. That's good. That's good. I like all the moments, you know, it'll come to you. So there's always been people that, like, I'll give you an example of one. We had the last guest that we had on, someone asked her, why are you doing this? Or no, they asked her, who are you doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's a powerful question. You know, are you doing it for you or someone else?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I remember having a conversation with a gentleman from Vegas. I used to race in the Silver State Winter Series a lot, which is held in Las Vegas. And I just remember him saying, "What kind of impact do you want to make
Mhm.
um, on the sport and you know on just on the world?" And it's always kind of stuck with me because I think as athletes we get so caught up on just wanting to perform and create results and be the best athletes that we can. But I think the important thing to remember is that with that level of success and power, you know, we have the ability to make change and actually, you know, inspire people um, to be able to do what they want to do and also to contribute to certain communities and help support them when we can. And I think that that's it's always so important to keep in mind when we're you know competing in these sports is that we need to be thinking of our communities and you know giving back to them when we can because you know it's a tough world out there and we need to be supporting each other for sure.
Well said. So I'm looking forward to seeing even more impactful things from you because you are definitely making an impact, definitely on target for success. And I am so grateful that you came on here today, and I look forward to following your journey. Thank you, Miss Heather.